I'm recording, and it's picking up my voice.
I'm recording. It's picking me up.
My voice is in a normal range of recording.
Mine too. It's picking me up like an Uber.
So it's late and kind of creepy.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to Into the Fold, a show where two best friends share their love of Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse chapter by chapter. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Juliana, and this week we are talking about Siege and Storm chapters 7 and 8. Welcome, listeners. We're happy to have you.
So happy.
I feel like that's a song. Is that a song?
Are you thinking of Because I'm Happy? Clap along if you
feel like a room without a roof. 'Cause I'm happy. Maybe? I feel like there's another song. I feel like it's like a Disney song somewhere out there about that, but honestly, there could be.
I keep forgetting that Disney doesn't own DreamWorks yet.
Yes.
Because, gosh, they own everything else, don't they?
Yeah. They own... Now we're getting their full capacity of them owning the X-Men, too. Coming up in the next Doctor Strange movie. So they're just slowly acquiring every single piece of IP out there.
Pretty much. But now, we'll just focus on two chapters of one book that they don't own. Chapters 7 and 8 of Siege and Storm. And Juliana, you know what? You know this, and I know this because we prepare the stock together. It's one of our things that cements our friendship. But in these chapters, it's going down for real. Like, for real. Stuff is happening. I'm
just going to warn the listeners straight out the gate. I'm going to get enraged, especially when we get to chapter 8. Like, I read these chapters, and I felt a fire burning within my soul and coming out my mouth, ready to just scorch mouth straight up the ass.
Yep, because you guys can't see this doc that I'm looking at, but there are all capital letters on some of these notes. That is how you know that Juliana...
Most of my notes for chapter 8 are in capital letters.
Oh my gosh. When we get to chapter 8, oh, wow. Okay, so prepare yourselves. Now, before we get into our chapter discussions, we don't have a lot of news this week, but we're going to take a brief segue into the news from the front to see what is happening. Woo! News.
Yeah.
Also, my wife is sleeping in the other room, so maybe that's why but it's okay. I did it now. We're here. It's the news.
We love you, Ashley.
We do love you, Ashley. What is in the news?
So as everyone knows, there is a crisis happening over in Ukraine because of what Russia has chosen to do and the violence that it is imposing on Ukraine. So we just wanted to let our listeners and anyone who is affected by this crisis know that we support you and we love you very much. We don't support anything that Russia is doing. And listeners, if you would like to help out with anything that you can to help the people of Ukraine and help with this situation, we have a lovely resource that Jeff and I can definitely stand behind and have utilized their resources before, and that is Amnesty International USA. And if you would like to donate or get more information on what's happening over in Ukraine, you can do so at donate.amnestyusa.org/Ukraine, and there they have the donation link and also links to information so you can educate yourself, because knowledge is power, my friends. And just sending out hugs to anyone who is affected by this situation. Okay. Getting into the actual Shadow and Bone and Grishaverse related news, Jeff, we have an article that was published about what's happening with the filming of Shadow and Bone Season 2, which is going swimmingly, it seems, over in Budapest, and we're getting some nice, cute pictures of the filming from some of the cast members, which is fun to watch.
We do, and we got a response from Louis Tan, the absolutely gorgeous and talented man who will be playing Tolia.
Yeah.
And he says, "It's just incredible. I met the author Leigh Bardugo a few days ago. She's awesome. It was really cool to be part of it. I really love what they did with season 1. I thought the production design, the VFX, and the writing were really, really, really well done. So I'm excited to try something new, a different genre for me, kind of. Season 2 is going to be insane. I'm really excited, and the cast is really nice. They've been very welcoming. I've been in Hungary for 2 months now, and we've been working really hard.
Yeah, I think that that's just a good summary of what's happening over there with their filming, that everyone is just getting along. It seems like they're having a fun time, and that the next season is going to be insane, Jeff.
Well, I don't doubt that, because much of the action of the season that's coming up is going to be based around the book that we're talking about now. And as we've already said, I mean, we've established in the chapters we've talked about so far, stuff is going down from the beginning in this book, and stuff is really going to go down in the chapters we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine, I mean, he's probably talking about the scenes we're going to discuss and some of the stuff we haven't even gotten to yet, because if they've been filming for 2 months, then I would say they've probably gotten a decent amount of what they need filmed. Not everything, because if they had wrapped, we probably would have heard about it.
Yeah.
But they're probably a good amount of the way through, I would think.
Yeah, I think that for us at the podcast, this is kind of almost perfect timing for you listeners, because by the time we finish reading this book, the next season should be like almost just about to come out, which will be really exciting. So you'll have all the backstory of this, not the Six of Crows side of things, but you'll have the backstory of Siege and Storm going into the next season that's coming out, which is really exciting because, like we said, this is a fun book, and this is my favorite book out of the original trilogy. So I think that as a podcast, we are in a lovely spot to enjoy season 2 of this show.
We are in a perfect spot for that. Yes.
Yes. So,
yes.
That is all we have in the news for today, but we did have some lovely, lovely things to talk about in the voice of the people.
So the responses that we got over social media for our question we'll save for the end when we get to what our next question is going to be for our listeners. But for the voice of the people, we have 2 things that we love to get from our listeners. We have a 5-star review, and we got an email. The email comes from someone who calls themselves Molly Girl. Love that. Super adorable. Molly Girl says, "So I'm currently listening to your wrap-up episode on Shadow and Bone. I know you already discussed your first thoughts on characters, but if you want to listen, here's mine on Mal. To be honest, I thought he was kind of a jerk with stupid, mean friends. But as we see him more in the army, I realize he's Alina's only true friend, and I thought maybe he isn't too bad. Throughout the books, I always thought of him this way. I really hate him, and he doesn't deserve Alina, but if he makes Alina happy and she loves him, then he can't be too bad. But he does some mean things to Alina, which make me very mad. Also, I took the Grisha quiz, and I am a tailor. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but if that's true, it's okay. Love your podcast. Have a great day."
I love Molly.
And then there's a little smile emoji with like 3 or 4 little smileys underneath it, which is super adorable. Love it.
I feel like by the end of this podcast, Jeff, we're definitely gonna have to have a t-shirt that says something like "I hate Mal" or the Mal hating fan club, something like that. I'll brainstorm. Listeners, if you have an idea as to what we could call our fan club of like hating Mal, let me know, because I'll make a t-shirt. I have a Cricut machine. I can do it. So I'll make it happen.
It's a fair assessment of Mal.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I have so many opinions. I'm just going to save them for when we get to chapter 7 and 8, because I'm really going to go off when we get down there. So I'm just going to say, Molly Girl, I agree with you, and we'll have more on why as we head down into the chapters.
Look, we have a clear dynamic in this friendship on this program. You are determined to hate Mal no matter what. He could cure every terminal illness on the planet today, and you would still hate him.
I just, in the first book, he kind of redeemed himself. Reading chapter 8, I literally was ready to rip my hair out of my head with how much I hated him, because I was just enraged. I was
We'll save some hair to rip out for later in the book, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think you know what I mean.
I know, and this is only the beginning. This is like the first drop in the bucket, and I literally have no strands of hair left to rip out of my head. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start, like, I don't know, I'm going to have to get some wigs and start chucking wigs off my head or something.
Fine, but if you're going to do that, get the cheap Shape and Go wigs from, like, Spirit Halloween. Do not get lace fronts and start cutting them up. I will cry in front of you.
Oh, no. I'm going to get, like, the plastic bottom ones and the ones that are so synthetic they look like you're just wearing a chunk of plastic on your head.
Do that. Great. Now, Molly says she's a tailor, so we're going to have to... We have not updated this for a while because...
No one's told us what they've been for a while.
Yeah. We have a Grisha tally that we have been keeping up. So we are now going to have to send that back out on our social medias and let everybody know that we have one more tailor to add to the list. And it is Molly.
Yeah. I'm going to write a sticky note, Jeff, for that. Grisha tally. Add Taylor.
Cool. Very cool. And then the last thing before we get into our main discussion for today is the 5-star review that we got from somebody called Kate Bishop, Marvel fan.
Kate Bishop, Marvel fan, said, "They are great podcasters. They make such great content. Though I haven't gotten through all of the episodes yet, they are also great so far, and I love their voices and characters. I also love everything that they talk about. Listen to this podcast! So funny and amazing. Yay!
Oh, my self-esteem! Oh, I do enjoy compliments. I also love that it sounds like they're actually going back. This always amazes me when people do this. When they find a podcast and they actually, like, they're willing to go back through the catalog and listen from the beginning. I've done that with a few shows. There are some shows I tried to do that with. Like, I tried to do that with Potterless with Mike Schubert, but when I realized how many episodes that was and how long it was going to take me, I said, maybe not.
You and I are in the exact same boat with that too, Jeff, because I joined the Potterless train after he finished reading the books, and I went back and I was like, oh, I'll listen to them, and I listened to like half the first book that he did, and then I just picked up where he was from currently. I'm definitely the person who's like, yeah, I just pick up the podcast from where it is. I don't really care about the backstory unless there's like one episode that they keep referencing. Like, I'm the podcast I listen to, Attitudes. They have this episode where the host Brian talks about a woman ordering a frappiato macchiato at Starbucks. They reference that a lot, so I went back and listened to that episode, which was very funny.
Now, admittedly, we only have this is our 20th episode, so it's not a ton, and some of our episodes are not actually about like reading through the chapters. We have a wrap-up episode, we have a Winter Fate, we have a trivia crossover, but so I guess as far as like the actual chapter read-throughs, that would only be about 15 of our episodes. But you know what? That's still not a lot.
Yeah, no, it's not. We're a baby podcast, Jeff.
We really are. But even so, what would probably it would amuse me to know that people are going back and listening to our show from the beginning, because if you look at what our show was like when we first started versus where we are now that we've had some time to find ourselves, you know, it's a different show.
Yeah. I mean, like, well, Puffcast is definitely like that too. Like, I can't even go back and listen to the first episode of Puffcast because it just makes me cringe so much. And the fact that people go back and listen to that, like, God bless anyone's soul who has, because it's awful. It's terrible.
It's not.
Oh, it's bad. I can't listen.
Not.
I can't listen to it.
When I discovered Puffcast, I went back and I've listened to every episode from the very first one, and I haven't missed one since.
I can't listen. I can't go back and listen to that episode. It's awful.
I enjoy it. But anyway, to Kate Bishop, Marvel fan, we appreciate that you actually took the time to leave us a positive review and that you are enjoying the show. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, sending you so much love and hugs back. Thank you so much for reviewing the show. Listeners, this week we are discussing chapters 7 and 8 of Siege and Storm, so if you have not read these chapters and you do not want to be spoiled, we suggest you go back and read them and join us here when you're ready. We will be providing summaries for the chapters as we go forward, and Jeff, our first chapter is chapter 7, and you are providing the summary for us. So what is the summary of chapter 7?
In chapter 7, Alina does some training montages on the deck of the Volkvolny as they make their way to Ravka. Sturmhand's crew proves through sharing their backstories with Alina that not everybody who is a Grisha wants to join the Darkling's army, and the more Alina learns about people from different places, the more she realizes that the life she's been given has not prepared her for having feelings and expressing them. Tolya and Tamar continue to prove that they are great, awesome, sexy, true friends who just keep checking all the right boxes. And once again, Alina is starting to settle and feel comfortable with her surroundings, with occasional exchanges of sass with Sturmhond and Mal when Sturmhond pulls out something unexpected, as he does. His ship can fly. Oh, by the way, we're calling the ship the Hummingbird now because hummingbirds fly, and so does the ship. And at the end of the chapter, they land, of all places, in the Shadowfold. Yes, they land in the Shadowfold. And you know what that means. That means we are now going back into the fold.
Wow. How meta is that?
It's the title of our show.
That's so meta.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Everyone give us your best, what's his name? Or Owen Wilson, wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
So send us your best Owen Wilson wow if you got it, friends. But
so let's just kick this off. Let's just go ahead and start getting it out.
Yeah. I mean,
give it to me.
My first reaction was just like, this whole time I'm just like rolling my eyes at Mal. I'm like, why? Why? But this is a mild reaction for me. This chapter is not as bad as the next chapter. We'll really get into it when we get to the next chapter. But I just started... This is the start of my, like, hardcore annoyance with Mal.
Now, I will say this for Mal, because I'm the only one here that's gonna. At least when he gets into sparring matches with Tamar and other female members of the crew... He loses gracefully, and he doesn't mind at all that his opponents are women, because I get the feeling that some of these women have probably fought men who were butthurt about the fact that they lost to a woman.
Oh, I have a feeling that Tamar has fought a lot of these men who are butthurt that they lost to her, because she is literally like the most kick-ass bitch I think I've ever seen in my life. And
definitely. She
is just kicking ass and taking names like it's just like something she does before breakfast, essentially. She eats these men for breakfast, and they don't like it.
No, but at least Mal knows how to lose gracefully, and it isn't just the women either, so it's not like he's doing it just to prove, oh, I'm a guy who respects women. No, he knows how to lose a sparring match with dignity. He tries to win, because winning sparring matches is part of how he lets off steam.
Yeah.
And he's got to have good fighting skills because he's in the army.
Yeah.
So at least he knows how to conduct himself with dignity in that capacity. Maybe not so much when talking to Alina, but, I mean, relationships are hard.
Yeah, especially if you're
I'm not proud of everything he says and everything he does, but I appreciate that.
I'll give him that 1 point, but you know, sometimes, Jeff, when you lose a game 1 to like 5 million, the 1 point that you earned in the good category is kind of small compared to the 5 million points that you have in the bad category that he's going to start racking up real fast.
I want all 5 million points in a pamphlet written by you.
Okay, don't worry. I can make that happen. We'll start here.
Cool.
I'll just go back through the docs and I'll just copy and paste all the notes that I took and put them in one long, like 500-page doc of reasons why I hate Mal.
Do you know what I forgot to mention in my summary?
Yes. What did you forget
I didn't mention it because I hate him. hate him so much. But the apparat is apparently starting a literal cult.
Oh, yeah, he is. Based around our friend Alina. He's just...
I hate him. I mean, the Darkling is treating people like he's a cult leader with an army. The apparat is a cult leader with a slightly smaller army.
Yeah. It's... Well, we do see Alina. She kind of is... She hears about this and it worries her. So I know you wrote that Alina's not... Tell you that Alina's not buying into it. I don't think she's buying into it. I think she's just worried about what's happening. And also concerned that the book that the Darkling is reading is the book that this crazy apparat man gave her, and a book that seems to be important. So he seems to know something, the apparat, that she doesn't know about this book, and maybe he was trying to warn her or something by giving her this book. We don't really know exactly what's happening, but we know he gave her the book. The Darkling is very invested in reading this book. We find out that there are 3 amplifiers from this book that the Darkling is trying to get. And then we learn that the apparat is forming a cult around Alina. And he is the one who gave her this book. And so it's a weird look for everyone, you know?
Yeah, and if too many people are persuaded by the apparat that this cult he's starting is a thing that they should all be invested in, then it's going to be that much harder for Alina to actually do her job because people are going to expect her to do saint stuff.
Yeah, and they're going to treat her, well, because he has stated that she died on the fold.
And was reborn.
Yeah, so people are going to really treat her weird because they're going to think she's some kind of like reborn creature saint thingy, whatever. And so, yeah, their interactions that she will have with people are going to be odd at best, you know?
Yeah, because he has actually given her a literal messiah complex.
Mm-hmm.
She is
that she doesn't want.
Something that a lot of people don't believe in, and yet she died, and then she was reborn, and she's got powers. Who does this sound like? I'm being very obvious. Jesus, more like Jesus.
Yeah, honestly, I can get behind Jesus. Like, that's fine with me. I am here for that. That can be Alina's middle name. Alina, Jesus, Orphan Girl. We don't... Starkov. Oh, yeah, she has a last name. Duh. Wow.
She has a last name. Apparat uses it.
How did
Alina Starkov. Because he uses her first and last name every time he talks to her, which is weird. But everything about him is weird. He smells like mildew.
Yeah.
People should not smell. Well, people should not smell in general. Deodorant's not expensive, okay?
No.
But people should never smell like mildew. How does that happen?
What?
I don't actually want to know.
You don't have Chanel number 57 mildew?
No.
Oh.
But I have Recovery by Elizabeth Taylor. It makes you smell like rose oil and wet newspapers. I didn't write that. I don't know where I got it from. I got it from somewhere.
I support it, though, Jeff. Both of these perfumes are just masterpieces.
So you asked a good question, and I thought both seriously and jokingly about your question. You wanted to know what Tolya thinks about all day. What do you think he thinks about?
Yeah, because to me, he seems like someone who is just quiet, but also extremely pensive. In my head, he's thinking, he has very intelligent thoughts. Like, he's solving the Pythagorean theorem. He is solving all the problems of the world in his head as he goes throughout the day. But he's just a very soft-spoken person who also happens to just get out his aggressions via physical activity. And I feel like he's one of those people who is just very scholarly, but keeps to himself.
How much about him, like, we've learned a lot more about Tamar than we have about Tolya, which I think is part of why your question is such a good one. But how much have we actually learned about Tolya?
Not much, actually. We know that...
We really haven't learned that much about Tolya at this point. Like, he is a person who is obviously capable of great... He has incredible combat skills, I'm guessing, or well, I mean, he crushed a man's head, and it was sort of hot, but we won't revisit that. But it
turned Jeff on.
What?
Jeff was like, I love when people smash heads.
Okay, moving on. Shouldn't have brought it up.
Jeff also likes watching people battle their tongues. That's very sexy.
Anyway. I said things he probably thinks about.
Mm-hmm.
Am I serving a purpose in this life?
Yeah.
Are we going to be okay? Did I leave the stove on?
I think these are all valid thoughts that he could have throughout the day, Jeff.
Probably.
I think so.
He just, like I said, he's got great combat skills, but like you said, he's probably a very philosophical person. Like, he reminds me of a teacher I had where everybody said that he was the kind of person who was very serious, but laughs on the inside.
Yeah.
Like, he has a good humor about him. It's just he's usually more introverted, and a lot of times his strongest qualities show themselves in moments of action rather than at moments of rest.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way to describe Tolia. And hopefully, and I think we will, from what I remember, get a lot more backstory on Tolia as we go forward. But he's someone that, at this point in the books, we just haven't actually learned too much about. So he has a little bit of an air of mystery to who he is at this point. So, speaking about our friends, Tolia and Tamar, I really loved this quote that Tamar has, and she said, "I like weeds. They are survivors." And that's talking about Alina calls herself a weed because I think she calls Mal a flower or something like that.
Yeah.
Because he blooms in the quote-unquote garden. And she thinks...
That sounds
yeah,
right.
she says she's a weed, and Tamar's like, well, I like weeds. They're survivors. And I'm like, I like you, Tamar. You're a badass. She's awesome. I love that. I hate how Alina is talking down about herself, because that is how she pretty much has her attitude at this entire time. She doesn't really think very highly of herself. She's constantly doubting herself and constantly has low self-esteem in her abilities. But I like how Tamar is kind of flipping the script here and being like, well, I like that you're like that, because that means that you too are also a badass like me.
I love it too. I can't help thinking, you know what? These are really pretty words, and she is making a great point. And it makes me wish I didn't hate weeds so much, because I don't mind them when they aren't trying to take over my garden in front of my house or the cracks in my sidewalk.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid. Those are legitimate weeds, though, not people who think they're weeds. So
yeah, people compare, as far as comparing people to weeds, this is a really great way to do it. And I have a feeling that Leigh Bardugo came up with this line herself, because she is full of incredible one-liners.
Yeah.
Highly quotable moments.
Yes.
And this feels like one I could almost, if it had the right design with it,
a tattoo.
I could almost see this being a tattoo.
Oh, this could definitely be a tattoo. For sure. Faux shizzle, Jeff. This could be a tattoo. We're bringing that back.
Just don't chicken out, because then you end up with a tattoo that says, I like weed, and you better mean it, because people will ask you if you just have a tattoo that says, I like weed.
Honestly, that is a bold statement to be making on a tattoo.
I mean, getting a tattoo that literally says you like or love anything is a bold statement. So if you're going to make a bold statement about weeds, like the kind that take over your garden and kill your flowers, then making a statement about the other kind of weed is probably equally bold.
Now I kind of really want a tattoo that says something like really obvious. Like, I want a tattoo that on my leg that says like, I am a person, because I feel like that's something that people would definitely ask me about and would question like significantly, but it's not like, it's just a statement saying the absolute obvious. And I feel like that would honestly be one of the most like controversial and like talked about tattoos that I would probably ever get if I got like, I am a person on my body. I kind of want that now. That would be wild. Or I could just get I like weed and tattoo it as a tramp stamp. What do you think?
If you do that, please send me pictures. Speaking of Tamar, do you get the feeling she knows more than she's letting on?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Alina's trying to ask her about Sturmhond, and she definitely purposely redirects the conversation to something else, very obviously. And I definitely think that Tamar and Toya, just because we saw them both in that scene where Alina just like wakes up from her little coma and then falls back asleep, like they are his kind of second in command. They are his two go-to people on his crew, his secondary ride or dies. And the fact that she is acting like she doesn't know anything about him really is highly suspicious and highly improbable that she doesn't know anything.
It is true that he does deflect pretty much any straight answer type question that Alina and Mal are asking him. And at first I'm thinking, okay, it's because they haven't been around each other that long, so they're unknown entities when it comes to one another, but the crew probably knows the real him. But now Tamar's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody would really know what's up with Sturmhond, it would be Tamar and Tolia and the people who work closest with him. So the fact that she's deflecting questions now is troubling at this point, if I'm reading it for the first time, because we just established that Tamar is going to be Alina's new BFF.
Mm-hmm. And we have to trust her.
Since things obviously are not working out so great with Genya.
Yeah, Genya's kind of out of the picture for now. For the time being.
And now Tamar is getting dangerously close to doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, the first time I read through it, I definitely knew there was something up with Sturmhond. Like, you can definitely tell that there's some kind of facade happening here. When you first read through this, Jeff, what did you think, like, the facade was leading to? Do you remember, for your first read through, what you thought the facade was leading to?
I was absolutely sure that Sturmhond is not his real name.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely sure that there was no other client.
Yeah.
I was absolutely sure the first time I read this that he was trying to get her somewhere safe so that he could show her something that would persuade her to join up with whatever he is planning to do for himself. So I was sure that he is his own client, but I didn't know until the next chapter where it was going. Because he's this guy who loves to orchestrate a conversation. Like, he has to control all of it. It's not cruel or insensitive exactly, but it is kind of arrogant.
Yeah.
When you're someone with his set of skills, I imagine it's probably kind of hard not to be arrogant and to have control issues. Because that's what I started to wonder at this point with Sturmhond, is he's obviously very persuasive and has control issues, and that's a dangerous combination to have.
Yeah.
So where did it come from?
Yeah, there's definitely, at this point when I was reading it the first time, I definitely knew something was up. I definitely thought, too, that he was his own client and that he was leading Alina somewhere. I was kind of leaning on the side that he was a little bit more evil than he actually ends up being. And
You thought he was evil?
I thought he was going to use Alina a little bit more for his own selfish purposes than he actually ends up doing. So I definitely thought he was going to be a little bit more evil leaning than he ends up being, but
I really didn't want him to
I didn't want him to be,
right.
but like that was the vibe I was getting. I think just because we've had all these interactions with the Darklings so far, and we know what everyone else who has tried to utilize Alina's powers has done, and how they have been like outwardly evil. So you can only expect that someone else wants to manipulate her powers and is also kind of on the eviler side of things, you know?
That makes sense. Like, I didn't think he would be evil, but I think maybe I was just trying to convince myself he wasn't going to turn out to be evil, because I really, really didn't want that.
No, I didn't want it either, but my brain was telling me that there was something awry here, and I think it kind of went to that evil thing as a default, and just because that's what we have seen in the books so far, and my brain was just on high alert, because obviously we know there's something up. There's something going on here that's not quite like the others, and there's something fishy happening.
And you know what? I am dying for us to get to the part where we talk about the fishy thing that is the going on.
Yeah.
So I think at this point it would behoove us if we were to move into chapter 8 and you were to summarize it for us, because this is where we are going to start getting some of those all capital letter moments, and I need that.
Okay, so listeners, summary, chapter 8. Yeah, so we're here in the fold, fam. And by fam, I mean fam, because this fold knows Alina. We soon find out that we are here to visit the Volcra petting zoo. And by petting zoo, I mean slaughter farm. Sturmhond and Mal, and I really hate Mal, rudely yell at Alina at what to do with her sun powers, which includes turning them off so that way they can draw the Volcra in and then blast them with light and bullets. They kill the Volcra and manage not to notice Alina is also internally dying. Essentially, Mal is a douche canoe that only cares about himself and successfully is able to fully ignore the woman that he, quote-unquote, loves. Well, she is clearly physically and emotionally in agony over the fact that they are killing the older and the baby Volcra just for fun. After they drop a death bomb on the Volcra nest, it's time to get the on out of the fold because they make a crash landing so they don't get seen and can pick up some souvenir scratches and bruises along the way. They all live. Yay! Except that does not go towards Mal. I did not want him to live. That's fine. And the hummingbird dies. R.I.P. Hummingbird. Alina is mad at Sturmhond, or is she? In response, we get a big reveal. Ta-da! With a parade of soldiers, we find out it's Nikolai Lantsov. He's a prince. Who knew? Alina is still annoyed and gives him a well-deserved punch.
Can I say something before we get into the Mal hate too much? We have established this wonderful headcanon I know we're both very fond of, that the Darkling is a drag queen, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we have learned from several episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race that drag queens love reveals, yes?
Oh, we love a reveal.
Now, the Darkling may be the headlining drag queen at this club in our imagination, but Sturmhond is king of the reveal, because when they come out of this battle, his eyes are suddenly a different color, his face is changing, and Alina's like, oh my god, you've been tailored. And he just snatches off his wig, and there's another wig underneath of it, and it turns out, oh, by the way, I am Nikolai Lantsov. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I think that Nikolai is the headlining visiting drag queen. He's the one who goes around to different... He loves to go to a different club, but when he's there, he is the headliner.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly. The Darkling is the established MC and headliner of this drag review in Ravka, and the Little Palace is the name of the club. And Nikolai is the RuPaul girl who's visiting from out of town that has all these killer reveals, and the Darkling is just standing backstage rolling his eyes going, ugh, he only does those reveals because his performance lacks substance.
The Nikolai's tour bus is called the Hummingbird, and
yes.
he loves a tour. He loves to go on tour, and then he loves to do the big reveal for all these different audiences. Because, if you stay and you do the reveal every night at the same review, the people who are there, they know what's happening. But if you go and you tour, you can have different audiences every night and just make that reveal count, honey. I love it. As much as I love Nikolai Mal, I was going to call you Mal. That's not okay, Jeff. As much as I love Nikolai, Jeff, I hate Mal. I hate him so much.
Do you?
This is the chapter where we fully get full-on first version, evolution 1 of douche canoe Mal.
Because
we have evolved from Pikachu to Raichu. And here we are as the first evolution of asshole. I'm comfortable with a good name for him. I'm going to call him Douche Canoe Mal for now.
Fine.
And then we'll have different evolutions as we go forward. But this is Douche Canoe Mal.
Because
he's a insensitive asshole.
Because
He's yelling at Alina. They go into the fold and they're like, Alina, throw up the light so we don't die. And she's like, why are we here? And Mal's like, he, I love to kill things. I'm going to laugh at you because you're clearly very distressed and we're asking you to do something that we shouldn't be asking you to do. But I'm going to laugh because I like to shoot things. And then I'm going to ignore you this whole time that you're clearly in agony and like dying on the inside. And then not even care if you get hurt. And I just, the point that enrages me the absolute most in this chapter, Jeff, is when they crash land and Alina, her first reaction to the crash landing is, where's Mal? And the whole time in the fold that Mal and Sturmhond and everyone else are doing their no one gives a flying about what's going on with Alina, especially Mal. And he's not looking for her when all the Volker are coming for them. He doesn't care. He's not looking for her when all the crap goes down. He's just like, he, I love to shoot things. He, this is fun. I'm going to bomb some Volker nests. Well, I don't care what's happening to Alina. I don't care that I'm literally draining the life out of her by encouraging her to do this and kind of low-key making her do this. I don't care. And then her first reaction is, where is he? Is he okay? I'm like, girl, you got to get your priorities straight. This man does not like you. You need to find other people.
So your problem is the lack of compassion while under duress?
The lack of, like, even, seeing that his quote-unquote love is dying, essentially, internally, and not giving a flying about what is happening to his person that he's supposed to love. What is that? That is not love.
That's why you rarely go to war with people that you love, and you don't fall in love with people that you go to war with, because balancing these two things, I mean, we have gone over and over and over how bad these two people are at understanding their complex emotions, dealing with their issues, growing as individuals and as a couple. They've tried, but every time they get close to really being there, they get abducted by the Darkling. They get double abducted by Sturmhond. They find out that Sturmhond isn't even really a thing because it turns out he's a prince. They're in the fold. They're not in the fold. They're back in the fold. They don't know where they're going to be or what's going to happen next, so they don't have time to process any of this. And now that Sturmhond has dropped both of these people, by the way, into the fold without warning either of them, their respective instincts kick in. Her instinct is, I love this person, where is he? I need to protect him. His instinct is, okay, is going down for real. This is a war. In war, you grab a gun, you shoot the enemy. That's what he's been trained to do, and he's doing it.
Then why we be smiling and laughing? Why we be smiling and laughing and be like, he, I love to kill things. He. I'm going to ignore my girlfriend loosely. He needs to reset his priorities. His priorities are in the wrong place, my friend. And I do not care. I'm not taking his lack of mental health counseling at this point as an excuse, because he can at least give some level of caring towards the person he's supposed to care about. He has that capacity inside of him. We've seen him utilize it before. I don't want him laughing at killing things. I do not want him putting my poor Lena in distress over the fact that she is worried about him, but he do not give a flying about what's going on with her.
I'm not a gun person, okay? I will never be a gun person, but I am a person who has been frustrated and knows what it's like to lose track of what's supposed to really matter to you when you're frustrated. And Mal is clearly a person who cannot get angry with the people he is angry at. Mm-hmm. And he's still, like all of them, these people are still very, very, very young to be dealing with these kinds of problems. They are not that old. And so he's thinking to himself, I think in this moment, he's thinking, you know what? I can't yell at the people who deserve it. I can't tell people how I actually feel because every time I try to, it seems like it's not really working out that great for me. So you know what? I'm going to kill something that can die and there will be no consequences for me. And I'm going to try to smile about something before somebody takes this away from me. And he does. Because even though Alina's the only person here who doesn't want the Volcra to be destroyed because she can hear and see them in a way other people are not able to. They just can't. Because she can feel the fold in a way that they can't. She's connected to it in a way that they never will be. And it's impossible to expect any of them to empathize with that.
That I will give you, Jeff. I will give you the fact that she is definitely on a different level with the Fold and also on a different level with the Volcra, which is interesting because we are seeing this obviously from Alina's standpoint while we're reading this book, and definitely made me have feelings for the Volcra as well as I was reading through these books because we are reading through her eyes and getting her level of empathy. Yeah, that she has for these people. And it's kind of traumatizing and also very shaking to realize that the ancestors of these Volcra were people who were trapped in the Fold, and she can almost hear how humanoid they are through their screams, and that's very haunting.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And just to think that you're killing mutated versions of people that you potentially loved before they were engulfed by the Fold. It's very disturbing and shaking on multiple levels. And the fact that she can feel that because of her connection with the Fold is definitely very jarring for her. And I will say it would have been nice if she was given the opportunity, or she just like screamed it out, that she was feeling these feelings. That way the other people around her could have understood what was happening inside of her head. And I will give her negative points for not doing that. But I will say, again, that Mal and also Sturmhond in this situation, their actions were uncalled for and unnecessarily just very mean and rude, specifically towards her, like forcing her to do these things. I'm not saying that them doing the Volcra killing is outside of their realm of things that they would do, because again, that's their training, that's what they do, it's where their minds are at. But forcing Alina to do the things that she did is not good. That's the really bad part, is the fact that Sturmhond is like, I'm going to make Alina do these things, and Mal is like, yeah, let's make her do it. Yeah, come on, let's make her get some light. And that is the part that I really am mad at.
We are certainly agreed on that. And I'm actually glad you were the one to say it, because it lets me know that you do at least recognize, as quick as you are to blame Mal, and I get it.
I hate him.
It's a thing. You have perfectly good reasons to hate him. You do.
Yeah.
But in this situation, you have to agree, and I'm actually agreeing with you because you said it first, that Mal's not the only one who's being insensitive in this situation.
No, he's not.
But you know what? Military ops are not known for their sensitivity. This isn't a military thing exactly, but these two men are trained as military officers, and that kind of training, especially when it gets deeply ingrained in your brain, it kind of takes over everything when stuff starts to go down.
Yeah.
So this may not be a military operation, but they're going to treat it like one.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I think I did.
And these characters teach us that it's impossible. It is an impossible job to empathize with all of these people at once. They're all feeling different things at the same time. And it's a lot to try to think, okay, well, Mal's got a point because he's just trying to do what an officer does, and Sturmhond's got a point because he's just trying to do what a captain does, and Alina's got a point because she can see and hear things that they can't, and she just doesn't want, if there's any chance at all that these Volcra could be turned back into people, or that they don't have to die, that they can at least exist, we should probably not be killing them. that's a lot of different things to experience all at the one time.
Yeah, I definitely think that this also speaks to Leigh Bardugo and her ability to write multifaceted characters that all have different sides to them, because there are multiple points during these chapters and during these books where you side with each character. You find something that you agree with what they're doing, and you're like, yeah, I identify with that. And then you find something that you don't agree with what they're doing, and you're like, ooh, yeah, no, that was like not a good choice that you made right there. And even like our friend Tamar, when she is kind of blowing Alina off and like, ooh, Sturmhond's fine. Like, we kind of get like weird skeevy vibes from that a little bit. And that's even a moment when one of our favorite characters kind of is like there's something else there. There's another layer. All these people are onions.
It's like that moment in Encanto when all Mirabel wants to talk about is Bruno, and everybody's just like, nah, we don't talk about Bruno. And then they do that musical number. I can't remember what it's called. And we find out, boy, are we going to talk about Bruno now, because now everybody knows who he really is. This is Prince Nikolai Lantsov, the younger prince that we learned very, very little. We didn't really learn much about either of the princes in the first book, to be honest. But so it's interesting to me that the first one we get to meet face to face is the younger one who is not heir to the throne.
Yeah.
And the way in which we meet him is so intriguing.
Yeah.
Because his disguise is peeling off, and then these military officers are there, and it's like, oh, by the way, I am Nikolai Lantsov, and I have brought the Sun Summoner back to Ravka. Punch.
Yeah, and the people of Ravka haven't seen Nikolai as Nikolai for like a super long amount of time, so they aren't even like expecting. It's not like he left on a quest like yesterday and they know he's out there just hanging out somewhere. They're not expecting to run into him because they just haven't seen him as himself for such a really long time. And you're right.
Yeah.
We just get this like teeny little mention of him in the first book. And that's like really the only reference point we have for him. And I believe we call him the Too Clever Fox at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely lives up to that name. We're going to find out more about him as we go forward, obviously, in the chapters. But I love Nikolai. I love him so much. I love how sassy he is.
And now, this must be... I would imagine Tolya and Tamar are probably the only ones who knew. Because I was wondering, as we went through these two chapters, how far in advance did he plan all of this? Because most of the people involved seem taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, Tolya and Tamar are obviously not fazed that Sturmhond turns out to be Nikolai Lantsov, but Mal and Alina had no idea. These officers didn't know he was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they saw his Sturmhond disguise peeling off. We don't know. And now I'm wondering how many people actually know that the legendary Sturmhond is also Nikolai Lantsov. How many people know that?
So the way I read this chapter, Jeff, is that the crew in my head, from what I read through this, was not surprised that he was Nikolai, but the soldiers that were there from the army from Ravka, along with the general, who almost like tried to decapitate him before he realized who he was, were very surprised. And obviously Alina and Mal are very surprised. But the way that I read it is that the crew knew he was someone else and was putting on a disguise, but because they also are other people who are kind of hiding from the Ravkin government in a way, or the Darkling per se, because he has a lot of Grisha who have escaped either the little palace or just escaped being commanded by the Darkling, who kind of want to low-key just keep it on the DL. So I feel like they're kind of in the same boat as him almost, in a way, except they are not necessarily tailoring themselves because they're not as recognizable as the Prince of Ravka.
No.
Yeah, no one knows their face.
I'm guessing. As soon as we find out he's the prince, I'm thinking, oh, I bet that his parents probably don't like what he's been doing.
Yeah, he's gonna get grounded for a long amount of time, Jeff, when he goes back to the little palace, to his palace, the big palace, sorry.
Possibly, but I mean, Prince, it also, that to me instantly says, we have plenty of reasons to hate the king and queen of Ravka, but now I'm thinking on top of this, they must be awful parents, because princes don't run away from the capital and become privateers who change their name and their face because they're happy at home.
Yeah, I feel like you have to have a
that
pretty
just
good reason
doesn't add up.
to leave like a pretty posh life where you have literally everything you can ever want and then go eat like rations on a ship just for fun.
I was about to say he probably took a decent amount of gold with him so that he could buy like high quality rations, but then again, no, that would have been really conspicuous.
Yeah.
And also he doesn't strike me as the type of person who wants money that he didn't earn.
Plus, we see him like way after he's actually this point where he's revealing himself. He's left like a really long time ago. He's left Ravka. No one's seen him for like a long amount of time. So any money that he would have brought with him initially
would have been spent.
Yeah, it's been spent a while ago. Like whatever money he's utilizing right now is fully just money that he has earned on his own. And yeah, he could have brought some money with him, but honestly, I'm in the same boat as you, Jeff, where I don't think he would want anything that he hasn't earned. And I think that's a big part of why he left too, is because he definitely is someone who is like, I want to earn the things that I have. Whereas if you are a prince or you live in a palace, you're kind of given literally everything and spoiled to death. And that is definitely not the vibe that Nikolai puts off. And I'm very excited that we can call him Nikolai now, and I don't have to worry about spoiling the listeners anymore as to what his real name is, because that was something I was worried about up until this point. So we did it. We made it this far.
I want to bring up one more thing from this chapter before we move on to our fun segment. Yeah. Just going to really briefly put this out there as a tantalizing little thing, because I don't think it came up in the summary. I'm not sure. But since Alina is more connected to the fold than everybody else, she's having these Kylo Ren, Rey, Star Wars moments now, I guess, because she sees and hears the Darkling even though he's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he tries to stab her with a knife, and she's like, ah! And then he's just like gone.
Yeah, and she's definitely not having a nightmare just now, so this is going to become a thing. Yeah. No doubt. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
It's intriguing. Like I don't know. It's how do I feel about this? Let's figure out how Jeff feels about this.
How does Jeff feel about this?
It's good writing because it keeps the Darkling tethered to Alina on this twisted level while he's off doing Darkling things. But at the same time, every time I have a feeling when it keeps coming up going forward, it's going to remind me of when Kylo Ren and Rey did it in the Star Wars movies. And I'm not knocking Star Wars as a whole. I'm just saying that particular thing wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, that was kind of a wild choice that they made.
Like, I'm picturing Kylo Ren and Rey talking to each other in those kind of moments. Ugh.
The Darkling is wearing no shirt. Giant pants that go up to like here, like right below his nips.
Oh gosh, the meme flashbacks are
that
happening.
Choice of costuming, I was like, that was a choice that someone made. That was definitely a solid choice that someone made the decision on. I think that these were fun chapters, and I think the moral of the story here is that I really hate Mal. I really hate him. He's awful.
Isn't that the moral of every one of these discussions for you? You know what? You put Douche Canoe Parade on a t-shirt and you wear it out in public.
Honestly, that would be so funny. I would die laughing. Just imagine. You know what? That's the tattoo I'm going to get, Jeff. I'm going to get Douche Canoe Parade as my tramp stamp. And then underneath it, it's going to say, I like weed.
Yep, these are
Listeners,
all great
look forward
ideas.
to me possibly designing that tattoo.
And now it is time for our fun segment. Now, I'm gonna be honest with the listeners. I have been trying for some time to work it out to where I get on a Zoom call with my brother, and I have a game in mind I want to play with him. He knows nothing about any of this, which is what makes the game perfect, so I won't give the game away. That's what I was hoping to include for this week's fun segment. So since that didn't work out, we're still planning it. It's gonna happen. We are going to play another game of Set the Scene. because I can't help it. The last time we played this game, I thought it was incredibly fun, and I've had a line from a show that I enjoy in my head for a while now that I thought would be really good to use for this.
Yes.
So first, Juliana, I have to ask you a question. Are you familiar with the show Letterkenny? Have you heard of it?
I know literally nothing about it.
Okay, because the last time we did this, it was a quote from Parks and Recreation, and you knew a little bit about that show, I think.
What was it called? Letterkenny?
Letterkenny. It's all one word. So here's what I will do. I will give you the line. I will give you the character. Obviously, you know it's from Letterkenny. And then you will set the scene, okay?
Can I get what network this is on?
This is on Hulu.
Oh, okay.
That's the only place I know it can be seen.
Okay. No, I've never
seen it. It is Canadian. I will tell you that.
Oh, well, that's useful.
And that actually factors into a lot of this.
I think that's going to make it. Okay, I like that.
Okay.
I can work on that.
So, this line is spoken by the character Wayne.
Wayne.
And the line is as follows.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard life picking stones and pulling teats, but sure as God's got sandals, it beats fighting dudes with fucking treasure trails.
Okay, so this is the line that he says?
Yep.
Okay.
So now that you have the line in mind, set the scene.
Am I going to like work up to this line? Okay, I have to set the scene around this line. So I'm imagining, since this is a Canadian show, this is taking place in Montreal. And pretty much everyone's just walking around being like, hey, 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 hey. And that's pretty much the main conversation that's happening between everyone, you know, stereotypical Canadian shit. So I think that, what was the line again? Can you give me the line one more time?
It's a hard life picking stones and pulling teats, but sure as God's got sandals, it beats fighting dudes with fucking treasure trails.
Ah, okay. So I'm imagining that there is a gentleman named Kenny. And Kenny, he lives in Montreal, and he lives on the outskirts of Montreal because he owns a cow farm. And he is just, he loves his cows. Some of his cows he has a love-hate relationship with. He has this one cow named Chuck, who is actually a female. But that's okay, because Kenny's not really like the smartest bulb on the tree. He's smart enough to co-own a dairy farm with his brother, Bob. So Bob and Kenny own this dairy farm on the outskirts of Montreal, and they have their main cow, Chuck, who is a female. And Chuck's real sassy. And sometimes Chuck wants to give them milk, and sometimes Chuck doesn't want to give milk away. And Chuck also, I'm imagining, can speak. She speaks English. And she is actually from the UK. Somehow she migrated from the UK to Montreal. And so she's a British cow. And she's like, hello, I'm not giving you milk today, mate. And that's more of like an Australian cow, but that's okay. It doesn't matter at this point. This cow is not giving him any milk. And so this is just kind of a typical thing for Kenny. He's like, I got to make some money. But my cow, Chuck, and Chuck's like, I'm a female. And he's like, I don't care. I'm going to call you Chuck, eh? And Chuck just doesn't want to give milk some days. And Kenny's like, well, it's better than facing whatever the heck that line was that Jeff gave me. And then his brother Bob is like, Chuck, you're horrible at being a dairy farmer. And Chuck's like, but what was his name? Kenny, you're horrible at being a dairy farmer. And Kenny's like, I don't care. And Chuck is like, mate, maybe you should take up another job. Maybe you'd be better as a drag queen. I know someone who does drag. His name is the Darkling. You should get with him. He's very good. And Kenny's like, nah, I'm gonna be a cow farmer, eh? And then end of scene.
Okay, so I have some notes. First of all, I don't know why I thought you would actually try to construct a scene that feels like it fits.
I'm assuming there's not really a cow in the situation.
In this particular scene, there isn't. How you did get the farm thing, so
they're on a farm?
A lot of times they are on a farm.
Yeah.
See, I don't think your accent was Canadian or British.
No, it definitely wasn't.
I don't know what that was.
No, it was completely
Somebody
just
probably
something.
has something like that accent, and they might be listening to this thinking,
Who does this girl think she is?
Also, I love how you just completely bypassed that the character's name is Wayne. You just named him Kenny because Letterkenny has Kenny in it. I told you his name was Wayne.
I renamed him. His name is Kenny now.
So the farm thing you got, and he doesn't have a brother, but there was. I'll just tell you. You know what? I'll tell you what's going on here, and we'll see how close you did get. So Letterkenny is a fake town in Ontario where you have all these different types of people. They call them hicks. They're farmers. They have, I think they call them skids. They're like club kids who buy and sell drugs and dress like Hot Topic kids. You have jocks who are hockey players. Like, there's about 5,000 people living in Letterkenny, and the show always opens with, there are 5,000 people living in Letterkenny, these are their problems, something like that. And then it always shows Wayne just standing on the farm, describing what's about to happen. And he starts off this cold open, which they have one at the top of every episode. He starts off this cold open by saying, "Couple hockey players come up the produce stand the other day." Because he always does that. He always says, something happened the other day. And then you have the cold open scene that starts off the episode. In this case, Wayne and his friend from another farm nearby, Daryl, are just manning the produce stand at their farm, and his sister Katie pulls up in a Jeep driven by these two hockey players who are total douche canoes, and they get on my ever-loving nerves. She goes in the house, and the hockey players start trying to make fun of Wayne, but Wayne and Daryl are actually cleverer than them, so in the end, they end up stripping off their shirts and trying to start an actual fight with Wayne, and one of the things that derails them is Daryl and Wayne notice that one of the hockey players has this little treasure trail of hair that runs from his belly button to the top of his shorts. And I don't even understand this remark, but Wayne says, "What's up with your body hair, Big Shoots? You look like a 12-year-old Dutch girl." I don't get it, but think there's any sense in that comment at all. I think he just came up with that line and thought, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
But apparently the creators of the show based it on the actual town in Ontario where they grew up.
Oh, that's funny.
And they call it Letterkenny. And every episode, it's a sitcom. There is stuff that carries over from one episode to another or one season to another. And everybody it's one of those shows where everybody has their favorite character or their favorite type of situation that they get themselves into. But it just feels to be like every scene in Letterkenny is they have their prompt, like their scene. They just write a bajillion jokes that could fit this prompt. And then they use all of them.
Yeah. I mean, whatever hits, you got to use it.
Yeah, I did this the last time we played this game. I actually sent you the scene that you were supposed to be putting together based off the one line. And that's where the line comes in. At the end, the hockey players and the farmers do not fight. They just kind of get back in their Jeep and drive away because Katie gets really annoyed, comes out of the house, and she's like, "Riley, Jonesy, put your fucking shirts back on and get out of here." So they get in their Jeep and they drive away, and then it closes up on Wayne, and he says, "It's a hard life picking stones and pulling teats, but sure as God's got sandals, it beats fighting dudes with fucking treasure trails."
Okay.
There's always that, too. There's always the intro to the cold open is always him saying, something happened the other day, and then the cold open scene happens, and then it shows him standing in the field again, and he makes some remark about what just happened.
I am very impressed that I put together that they were on a farm. The fact that I put them on a Canadian farm.
You did get that. That was, I think, in a weird way, this one might have been closer than the last one you tried to put together.
Considering the fact I didn't even know this show existed until like literally 5 minutes ago, and you just and I pretty much went off the fact that he was talking about tits, and I was like, okay, he has to be talking about cows.
No, teats.
Teats. Sorry.
That does matter. It's not the other thing. It's teats.
I imagine he was milking a cow. That's why I kind of went for the cow farm.
Exactly. So at least that you picked up on.
Yeah.
You ignored the fact that his name is Wayne,
fully
but you did get the fact that he said teats.
Yeah.
So you picked up on the important word.
Always, Jeff. I always do. Well, that was fun. Thank you for providing that little fun segment for us, Jeff.
Thank you for being a total space cadet with that fun segment. I loved where it went.
No problem. Here to do my job, you know.
And now let's do our question of the week. What was last week's question again? We've gone in so many different directions this episode, I forget.
Last week, we asked our listeners, would you rather have Tamar or Jenya as your BFF? And we got 3 responses from our friends. We had Minka Safin, possibly, that's how we pronounce it. Sorry if I mispronounced it, I probably did. And they said, Jenya, heart, which is not what we went with, but obviously, we're asking the question, so here we are. And then we have Yael Cole 17, who said, Tamar, fire, yeah. And then we had our friend Bookworm Allie, who said, Tamar. She's kind of a badass woman. I love her. And we agree with that 100%, Allie. So thank you, listeners, for everyone who wrote into us. And our question of the week for next week is a more pensive question, and you can let us know about this via email or our social medias. And we are asking, what did you think Sturmhond's true identity was when you read through chapter 7 and the other chapters initially? So let us know who you thought he was before we found out that he was Nikolai Landslav. So listeners, again, you can submit that to any of our socials or send us an email at intothefoldpod@gmail.com. And next time we are here, dear listeners, we will be talking about chapters 9 and 10 of Siege and Storm. So if you would like to get a head start on that, you can go ahead and read those fabulous, fun, fantastic chapters and join in the Mal Douche Canoe fan club with me next time. So, Jeff, if anyone wants to get in contact with us or listen to this podcast, they can listen anywhere pods are cast, and we are also over on YouTube at Into the Fold Podcast.
And if you have any thoughts about our question of the week or the episode in general, if you just want to pop by and let us know that you also think that Mal is a douche canoe, or that Sturmhond might actually bear some of the responsibility for what happened in these chapters, or that Alina is definitely having a Star Wars moment, whatever's on your mind, we want to hear it. So come find us at Into the Fold Pod on Twitter and Instagram and let us know what's on your mind.
Yeah, and if you have any more long-form answers, or if Canadian Peyton is still out there, I'm still waiting for that picture of a bit of the Canadian bacon with your face cropped onto it. Thank you very much. Just putting that out there. If you would like to send us anything more long-form, you can send it to intothefoldpod@gmail.com. We are more than happy to get any emails you have to send us, as long as they're nice. We don't want any negative things. Please, thank you.
And if you would like to do something positive that helps us smile and lets us know how we're doing, if you could leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that does help us out, like our wonderful listener, Kate Bishop Marvel fan.
Yes, thank you again.
We would love to share your thoughts on the show with our other listeners.
Mm-hmm. And listeners, the best way that podcasts are spread is by word of mouth. So if you would like people to know about this show, and we would love for more people to join in our little community, you can tell people that you listen to this show and force them to listen to it. Plug some AirPods into their ears and make them listen. Ha 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 ha. Okay, maybe not do that. You might get kind of arrested if you start like actually harassing people. So just recommend the podcast. That'd be great. Please and thank you. And Jeff, I guess until next time,
we will see you in the fold, where we will not talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno.
But the other one, he just kept saying, I should have brought a mask so we could get an Uber. I should have brought a mask so I could get an Uber. I told him that's his new theme song.
Yeah, the lesson of the story is keep a mask in your back pocket so that way you don't freeze to death and you can take an Uber home.
Oh boy.
I would imagine. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Hey boy.
Oh boy.
I'm waiting.
Which one of us is gonna... Oh, I have to do the...
Yeah.
Oh, I always forget that. Hang on, I have to take a sip.
What episode? Well, this is episode 20, Jeff. You've done it 19 other times. How do you, this is like with me and Mel, I always ask her who's going to do the introduction, and she's like, it's me. I do it every time. And I ask her that question every time. And
I slept 3 or 4 hours last night, and then I got up and went running at the gym, and now I'm doing this.
This is our version, Jeff, of Juliana asking who's going to do the introduction. Yeah. This is Juliana waiting for Jeff to do the news. News.
Whoa.
What?
You started doing the electric fuzzy voice again.
Is my voice okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So, Kate Bishop Marvel fan said, they are great
No.
Hello?
No, I meant yes, as in yes, your voice is still doing it.
Hello. Am I playing music? It's asking if I'm playing music. I'm not playing music, I'm making music.
Can I put in a quick editor's note real quick?
I'm gonna swear a lot.
Yeah, it takes like 100 years to edit one of these episodes, the more curse words we put in. So as much as I don't want to censor you expressing your true self, just please have mercy on Jeff, the editor, who has to go in and catch every single one of these curse words.
I'm gonna find some other words that I can use, Jeff. That way you don't have to edit it out, and that way it's kind of funny.
No, just use the curse words if that's what's in your heart.
No, I think it'd be funny if I come up with other words. Yeah, so last week we asked all of our listeners, would you rather have Last week we asked all of our listeners, would you rather have Tamar or Genya? Starting over, hold on.
Oh, I actually learned all the words to my favorite verse from that song. I learned it.
Which one's your favorite verse?
Hey, I grew to live in fear, brutal stuttering and stumbling. I can always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling. I associate him with the sound of falling sand. Shh, shh, shh. It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always left a waylaying and the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you understand?